And tonight on DC News Now at 10, catastrophic tornadoes whip across Arkansas, tossing trees, cars, and even people.
They saw a man being flown across the parking lot from one end to the other.
A reporter taking us through one of the hardest hit areas in Little Rock. Plus,
it just shows a profound lack of understanding of what actually goes on in schools.
Brewing tonight in Spotsylvania County, more than one battle over books. Our Max Marcillo joins us with the latest controversy. And new reaction and new insight into the charges a former president could be facing. DC News Now at 10 starts right now. A major tornado outbreak with dangerous twisters tearing through Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee. A tornado watch now being issued for parts of Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Thasmeen Mahfouz. Chris Flanagan has a night off, and take a look at this drone footage. Shows the mess in Little Rock tonight. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders confirms that 3 people have died in Arkansas, 1 in Little Rock, 2 people have died in the city of Wynne, and with daylight, that number is expected to increase. The governor also says there are injuries. They don't know how many as of right now. And she says it's not enough right now to overwhelm the hospitals, but they do expect those numbers to climb too. The AP reporting at least 24 people were hurt, some critically, when the tornado raced through the town, tossing around trees, debris, splintering homes, and flipping over cars. Governor Sanders said that the state was prepared to respond operationally, but not emotionally.
No matter what comes our way, we will get back up the next day and keep moving. We will help our neighbors. We will ensure that every Arkansan who needs assistance has it. Our message and our mission is really simple. The people come first and the paperwork will come second.
And Chief Meteorologist Janessa Webb is joining us right now with more on those severe storms and our weekend forecast. And Janessa, it's going to be a windy weekend across the D.C. area.
Yeah, this is one of the worst severe weather outbreaks that we've seen in decades across the central U.S. Closer to home, we're actually watching the winds starting to whip up. Could see some isolated gusts at 30 to 40 miles per hour. I want to talk about the larger scope, the reason why we're kind of honing in our weather team on this severe weather outbreak. Yes, I'm very aware that it's outside of the DMV, but that entire storm system is going to continue to keep its integrity and make its way across our region. No, we are not talking about severe weather potential, but we are talking about damaging wind gusts tomorrow afternoon. And I'm asking everyone at this point, what is your plan? And your cell phones charged? Do you have trees by your home? What are you going to do if you lose power? So these are some thoughts that should be running through your mind, because for 24 hours, we're going to be talking about major wind gusts. Now, the current situation, 28 million people under a tornado watch stretching from Milwaukee down to Houston, Texas. Our major concern tonight is nocturnal severe weather. We are at the point, it is about 9 o'clock Central Time, where we have people in the dark, and you still have severe weather that is rolling through the area. At this point, just outside of Memphis, we've already had 3 confirmed tornadoes south of the metro area of Memphis, and it does look like another one just coming in towards Jackson, just south of the Memphis area, and so we'll watch that as well. I think the big focal point here just in the last 20 to 30 minutes has been Chicago. A severe thunderstorm warning was in place. You had straight line wind damage. For the Quad City, today's aspect was hail of softball size hail, and then damaging wind gusts with gusts from 70 to 90 miles per hour, and that's what we just experienced. Our news team is working hard to get video and sound of what has just taken place for the metro area of Chicago, ripping through that area, 80 mile per hour wind gusts, and getting reports that people are stuck in a major hub of O'Hare Airport. And so they have stopped airflow at this time, and so they are waiting for storms to currently pass across that area. Taking a look at SPC, it's a Storm Prediction Center, which they do not issue a high risk of severe storms for often. What you are seeing, it does look like Chicago now just downgraded. So just outside of Memphis, they want to keep a high risk. It goes general, marginal, slight to high. And so for them to issue this today, it is very rare. They haven't done that in the last 2 years. And so that's what really caught our attention about 3 to 5 days ago. And that's what we've been trying to hone in. So power outages continue to be kind of widespread into Memphis and Little Rock. You have over 10K people. And so it's important that we get power back restored because you have daytime highs. They're back in the 80s in this section of the country, and AC needs to be cranking. Can we take this full screen, Wendy? And so I can show everybody where these high wind warnings, they are going to be in place across the DMV for tomorrow. Widespread. I want you to look at to the left of your screen, thank you, where we can see from Cumberland, the Mountain State region, all the way into the district. We're talking about 40 to 50 mile per hour winds that are going to stir up tomorrow afternoon. We are not talking about a precip threat here in the DMV. It's just wind concerns tomorrow morning starting after about 5 a.m. We do have two of our areas, our counties, Fredericksburg and to Culpeper. You're under a high wind watch. Many people always ask me difference between watch and warning. Warning, hey, we know it's going to happen, and so it's time for you to prepare. A watch, we're kind of watching the situation. Will it unfold? This is that elongated cold front. It stretches from the tip of Mexico all the way into Detroit at this point. And so it's keeping its integrity. Just to give you some history on this storm system, it started in the Pacific Northwest. It has roared across the central U.S. of the country, and it continues to get more robust. And so we want to take this situation seriously. One more thing before we go here, I want to show you futurecast so you are fully prepared of this southerly flow. Yes, tomorrow we have warm conditions that are going to be in place, but just around 6 a.m., look at Woodstock and Luray, 30 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts. And then throughout your afternoon, it's really 20 to 25 mile per hour. Do not let your guard down tomorrow afternoon because the highest wind impacts are not going to move in until about 5 to 6 o'clock. This is your greatest threat for any isolated wind damage across western locations. I do think as this front tracks more towards the east, it's going to kind of lose its force and kind of crumble apart. These wind advisories thus mean they're going to stay in place until 12 a.m. tomorrow evening. So overnight, we start to see winds subside, and then Wednesday, we have a different weather pattern. Hey, coming up, we are going to talk about the rain flow that's associated with this storm system. A full breakdown coming up. Tasmin.
Janessa, thank you. So you have to see the aftermath in Arkansas. Just parking lots and businesses torn apart. Samantha Boyd with our Arkansas sister station was there earlier this evening. She shows us just how bad the damage is.
Here in Little Rock, the damage is significant. I'm here at the Colony West Shopping Center in Little Rock, right off of Rodney Parham, where they have seen quite a bit of damage, really ever since about 2:45 or 3 p.m. today. I want to show you guys first off the parking lot that I'm standing in right now. There's this one car that's right behind me that I want to show you guys first. This car has been totally flipped over, and it's actually right on top of this Camry right behind it. But let me tell you, this is not the only car in this parking lot that is seeing a lot of damage. Now, just about every car in this parking lot looks to have a lot of damage. Most appear to even be totaled. I talked to several people who were either in their cars or had just come out of their cars when the tornado was coming through, and they say they don't know how they're going to get their car home. They don't think they're going to be able to drive their car ever again. Now in front of me we have a Kroger. This was the first place I walked into today when I got here because this was the place that we were hearing had the most damage. When you walk into the Kroger, you can really tell just how bad it is. The lights were totally out. People were packed in there. They'd been taking shelter in there this afternoon when the tornado came through. And when you go to the right towards the produce section, you can see that the roof is totally gone. Rain was coming in, rain was pouring in as I walked in. Flowers, produce, champagne bottles, everything was everywhere. Now when you come here behind me, you can see the other side of this shopping center. This is really where it appears to be the worst damage of where we are right now. We've got several shops. We've got a State Farm right here on the left, a hibachi restaurant, an eyebrow threading place, Rock City Running, a protein bar, and then a nail salon. All of them appear to be totally damaged. I talked to a woman in Rock City Running who was in there when the tornado came through. They said they learned it was coming through, so they ran to the very back, but they saw a man being flown across the parking lot from one end to the other. She says the owner of Rock City Running actually came out into the parking lot to check on that man, and the wind blew him from this Rock City Running place to the protein store right there. He's now in the hospital being treated for injuries, and the last we checked, he's probably one of about 24 being treated for injuries. A lot of the people here who I've talked to had minor injuries. Most, if they were okay, they're for sure mentally and emotionally shaken up. So we're of course continuing to follow this and following the injuries, the people who were really impacted by this the most. Even the people who weren't here when it happened are now coming to look at the damage, and it's devastating for people who have grown up here, who this is their neighborhood, you know, grocery store. This is where they come all the time. This is devastating for people who were here or just coming to look at the damage afterwards. So again, we'll continue to keep you updated and follow this coverage as we learn more. Reporting in Little Rock, Samantha Boyd, back to you.
And just in tonight, we're getting a better picture of the charges former President Donald Trump is facing after being indicted by a grand jury. So sources tell the Associated Press that he faces multiple charges and at least one felony offense tied to falsifying business records. At this hour, the indictment still remains sealed. And outrage is building in a Virginia county tonight after its superintendent said getting rid of school libraries could solve a multi-million-dollar budget shortfall. And that's far from being the only controversy there. Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Max Marcilla joins us live in the newsroom with the latest on what's going on in Spotsylvania County. And Max, we'll get to the libraries in just a moment. But today, more than a dozen books, they were removed from school libraries.
Yeah, and Superintendent Mark Taylor, who's in his first year on the job, says that's because they contain sexually explicit content. Now, among the 14 books being removed from the school libraries, Beloved by Toni Morrison and The Perks of Being a Wallflower, two very well-known and highly acclaimed books. But some parents in Spotsylvania we spoke with today said they fear that the book removal is just part of a bigger, troubling trend. For students in Spotsylvania County, Virginia, what they read and where they can read could drastically change soon.
And that gap is going to have to be dealt with.
A nearly $22 million budget gap is why Superintendent Mark Taylor says he's proposing a highly scrutinized cut, school libraries. It's a move that would eliminate more than $4 million from the budget and eliminate 63 full-time workers.
Part of me thinks that was a scare tactic because it got people riled up. Sure as heck did.
It led to strong turnout at a Thursday night budget public hearing, one after another. Students, parents, teachers, all advocating for funding libraries.
I utilized the libraries provided to me. Not only did I use them, I cherished them.
Chancellor High PTO President Bernadette Chimner told us this move would hurt more than readers.
These kids are going there to learn how to code on computers. They're going there to interact with some of the technology, some of the robotics are in the library. It shows maybe that a person hasn't really sat down and looked at what goes on in that library and how those spaces are being utilized.
At least a handful of school divisions across the country have closed libraries as a cost-cutting.
Frustrations boiled over earlier this week at a school board meeting, and now questions over whether it's even legal to do so under Virginia law. In the meantime, the county's board is considering a real estate tax increase for the first time in years to help bridge the gap. And while Cassie Gregorio Palmer is supportive of that measure, she cautions parents to watch how the board spends the additional revenue.
If it's not spent well, we could be right back where we are this year, 6 months from now when we start the next budget season.
Now, the $22 million budget gap that we mentioned earlier the school district is facing, well, that could be cut to as little as $8 million if two things happen. First, that tax rate is approved, and then, as the school district is worried, if the Richmond legislators adopt a certain budget, it could take away more money from the school district. Live in the newsroom, Max Marcilla, DC News Now. Back to you.